Good morning, good afternoon, good night, my dears. Welcome to the Worldwide Podcast. Back to Africa. Let's talk about Namibia, this amazing country. But before introducing our guest of this day, just want to ask how Guilherme is doing. I see in his background right there that is pretty dark. How's it going there in Norway, man? Only dark days. How's it going, bro?
No, Scandinavian depression is kicking in. Very few light hours, but
Okay.
we're on to it. Very fun projects going on with my film degree, editing my next short film, which hopefully we can link up on this episode if it's already out by then. If not, next episode it will be. But even more, actually, how are you doing, João? Because you have some good news. Come on, say to the podcast. What happened in the last few weeks?
Come on, guys. I got married. Yeah. If you're in your YouTube right now, you're seeing this ring right there in my finger. I got married and I'm pretty happy about it. Like it just happened. It's like we are before the show right here, we were talking about how was the wedding kind of stuff. It happened like as you projected all these 2 years and kind of stuff. And it does, bro. Like, I mean, it was a lot of plan involved to the things and all the dreams come true. And it wasn't raining. It was at the beach. It wasn't raining. Like I got drunk a lot, drank a lot, and it was fucking happy during the whole time. And it was like a dream come true. Like it was amazing. It was amazing. My wife, she was very beautiful. Like you guys could see. Like I would try to in the next episodes share a picture of her right here in the edition because she was very beautiful. I was very happy and very emotional. I was crying a lot. There was a lot. It's all about a lot of emotions in this day. It was amazing, guys.
For sure. Good to know. Good to know. Guys, this episode, I will say, is possibly the most underrated country, especially in Africa. And I'm so happy that now the country is even more known to the people. Because back then, you would say the name of this country, and people were like, what the hell is that? Is that a country? Like in the Pacific Islanders, like little area? But no. We're talking about Namibia, guys.
Namibia.
Namibia. With our
Let's
guest,
go.
Ehren-Ray. How are you
Yeah.
doing, Heron? Say if it's true or not what I just said.
Harry, first of all, thank you so much for accepting the invitation, bro. Like, thanks, man, for being here.
You are most welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, it's exactly right what Guilherme is saying about Namibia. Most people outside of Africa have not heard of it, and even some that are in Africa have not heard of it. I think the closest Namibia got to like global recognition was a speech where Trump, it was a few years ago, mentioned our country and he called us Nambia.
Oh
We
yeah,
were
bro.
like,
I do remember this
I
speech.
didn't
we
even
were
know that. That's
almost,
crazy.
Yeah, I do
yeah,
remember,
we
man.
were like, we were almost mentioned, guys. Yeah.
Oh my
Namibia.
god.
They almost got our name
Such
right.
a such a
Yeah,
Trump thing.
yeah. But it's a super, it's a big country, but it's very tiny population and
Hmm.
very unknown, very
Yeah, very
little.
sparse as well, like the people, I think.
Correct,
So that makes it
correct.
be like very like deserted, even though it's desert. There's a lot of desert in the country, but also feels like deserted in that
Yeah.
sense. For
Yes.
sure, for sure, for sure. And I'm so excited to talk about it. And one is because Namibia is almost like a twin to South Africa, meaning like the culture
Yeah.
is very similar. The food, the of course the background historically, the
Correct.
Afrikaans and Germanic languages coming from
Yes.
South
Rugby,
Africa
the sports are the same. Like
Yep.
you got a good
as
rugby right
well.
there as well.
The
Yeah.
way the way I would describe it is Namibia is the Canada to South Africa's USA, where
Mm-hmm.
it's,
Okay.
they speak the same language, there's a lot of cultural overlap. Um, but if you ask a Namibian or a South African if they're either one of the two, it's sort of a different country.
For sure, for sure. What would you say it's like in terms of even culture? Between
Hmm.
South Africa, like one of the main things that's like completely different that you can like distinguish a Namibian from a South African. Is there one thing that comes like to your mind?
You mind? Yep. The one thing, so my wife, she's South African. She was born in Cape Town, and I studied there and I lived there for about 8 years, and then I brought her back to Namibia.
Cool.
So the one thing that um I think a lot of South Africans find shocking is mainly in South Africa, Afrikaans is spoken by the white people as well as
Yeah.
what we call colored or mixed race, mainly, right?
Mm.
Whereas here in Namibia, I'd say Afrikaans is kind of the first language
Okay.
of most households, or at least spoken and understood. So it's always shocking for guys that have never been out of South Africa to find black people in Namibia that speak fluent Afrikaans. So I think that's the
That's
one thing
actually
that,
I never thought
yeah,
about that. That's actually true. I've never met a
yeah,
black person in Cape Town that spoke Afrikaans.
correct,
So I
correct.
would
But
also maybe feel surprised if going
yes,
to Namibia, then I would meet one and I'll be like,
yeah,
wow, that's actually
wow.
really cool.
A lot
Yeah.
of households here, especially more central and southern Namibia, you
Hmm.
would speak your first language, so either English or one of the local dialects like Damara, Damara Namba, Oshi, Hereru, Oshibambu. But then as a second first language, or like very close, the language of
Hmm.
like most communication would then be Afrikaans and English on the same level, but it's more widely spoken. But the further north you get, it does sort of thin out because there is a bit of a stigma around the language because it's like the colonizers brought that language, etc., etc.
Ah,
Uh,
I see.
yeah,
And I even see it in Cape Town because you can kind of see also who speaks African and not because obviously have a lot of population that speaks English with a very English accent as well from the UK. And those
yeah, like a
people
Brit.
usually they never speak Afrikaans. Very rarely do they speak Afrikaans. So there's also
Yes.
like a bit of that difference, kind of like Belgium with Dutch and French. So
Hmm.
it's like you don't see them mingle as much as well. So that was like
Yeah,
very surprising to me.
yeah. So I'd
But
say that's probably one of the biggest cultural differences.
mhm.
Um, and then I might say Namibians, kind of like Canadians, we are known for being like super friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the street, like you can have a full-on conversation with a stranger, like genuine conversation. How's your day been now? How's the wife? How's the kids? And then leave and not know their name, but you've just had like
Like
life-changing
sharing
conversation.
lots of personal stuff with a person that
Yeah,
is mad.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
More
think there's
easygoing.
Yeah.
More
always a
easygoing.
girl. I
Yeah.
also think it's with the smaller population. It's sort of bred in where everybody is your uncle or your auntie or your sister or your brother, that type of cultural difference. And I remember when I first moved to Cape Town to study there, I was walking down the street and greeting everybody I'm passing, and I was just given very funny looks. It's only later I realized it's not done. You
And
don't
people
just
is like, who is that
you
guy?
don't walk,
That guy trying
yeah,
to
you don't
say, bro.
walk,
No.
yeah, to
No, in
strangers
Cape
and take their
yeah, in Cape
hand.
Town you keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Man,
Yeah,
I'm actually very interested. For our listeners who don't know, I've lived in Cape Town 2022, six,
yeah,
7 months, and my God, it was a dream come true, especially because one, it was the first country I traveled and even lived outside of Europe. So when I arrived in Cape Town, it was a bit of a culture shock, even though people say it's like Europe of Africa. It's still nothing like Europe. And it was so nice to see, I think for the first time, a true melting pot. Like
mm,
Cape Town,
mm,
you have people from all over Africa. Like you walk on the streets, you hear Xhosa, you hear Swahili, you hear,
yes,
Afrikaans, like British English, anything. So it was
yes,
so nice to see this diversity in culture being shown in the streets, in the people, and even in the establishments, because you have restaurants literally from all over Africa, owned by
yeah,
the people who lived in those countries in Africa. It's not like
yeah,
I don't know, like a Japanese restaurant owned by white people or whatever. It's like the
yeah,
people that own that restaurant are from that place, and that was
yes,
like really cool to see for the first time. And I'm really interested to know how was your life in Cape Town, especially like studying there. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, especially
Um,
compared to Namibia.
Yeah. So, the first thing that hit me comparing Cape Town to Namibia was the amount of people. So to give you
Mm.
perspective, Namibia as a country, we just hit 3 billion people. Woo, let's go. But Cape Town, the city itself, I think has about 4.5 million people in the town, in Cape Town City. So I don't think I've ever seen that many people in my life. So that was one of the big shocks. And then I think, yeah, Namibia as well. There's, and I imagine this is a difference between like European countries or let's say America, where everybody in the country is of a similar culture. There will be like differences in maybe the accent you speak in or words you use, but generally everybody comes from a similar culture. Whereas I think in South Africa and Namibia, you have five, six, seven major cultures, like you said, a melting pot, or it's called the Rainbow Nation in South Africa, where you have just vastly different cultures living side by side and coexisting.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because even on the streets, you see like a Jewish church next to a Catholic church next to a mosque. And
Yes.
that was the first time I've ever saw it. I was like, this is so cool that that can
Yeah.
happen.
Yes.
It- like crazy to me.
It is.
So fucking
And
cool. Yeah.
I think the country is also making big moves in terms of what's the word? We like not acceptance, but you get what I'm saying? Where different cultures, different religions, different opinions, etc., are tolerated
Yeah.
and not stigmatized, which I think is quite cool.
Oh, I think so as well. Yeah. I would even say like of course nowadays because back then it was quite different with apartheid and
Yeah.
all of it, but in current times I still say of course there's a lot of bad things still happening, but there's still like a lot of tolerability, I think that's the word,
And respect, I
within
guess.
people, and yeah,
Respect
respect that
between
you
the
can
religions
just
and stuff.
coexist with the people there super nicely. Like
Yeah.
I truly I would get onto my city bus and I would go to almost townships and I'd feel
Yeah.
safe. I wouldn't
Yeah.
feel wrong at all. And
Yes.
people in Europe, they would, whenever I told them, they would be like, "You're insane to even do that." And I'm like, "No, it's only insane if you act like it. But if you
Correct.
act
If,
nicely and if you have, let's say, a good heart, and if you go there just purely by going there, nothing's gonna happen to you."
Unfortunately,
Um,
there are a lot of
so
stereotypes
yeah,
about Africa and
yeah, yeah, a
South
lot,
America.
a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah,
the other,
that was my favorite thing about Cape Town for sure.
the other thing that's different, so you mentioned you are generally safe, but that was also a bit of a shock in that Namibia is safe in terms
Mm.
of, I
That
think
was my next question, like asking about how safe it is there.
it's quite safe in that because there's so few people. Um, for example, if somebody is killed, so crime happens everywhere, obviously. So if there's a homicide somewhere, it makes front page news. And it's like, we know the person, which sucks. But
Yeah.
to give you that idea, you'd be like, oh, it's so and so's auntie's cousin's second son, twice removed. Ah, he'll be missed or whatever. But it's to that degree, crime does happen. But I think that's one of the benefits of having a smaller country is it's easier to police because communities are so close knit. You're less likely to have hectic crime.
Mm.
So that was one thing in Cape Town. By God's grace alone, I was able to go my whole 8 years living there without getting robbed once, which I think is an
How many years?
achievement.
Eight
I
years?
had another 8 years, yes.
All right, so it's a long time.
I had another friend who probably like bi-yearly would get robbed, and it was sort of a running joke. Like, okay, what happened this time? What did they take? You know? But it is
uh,
exactly what you're saying, Guilherme. It's where you go, how you go. If you make
yeah,
yourself a target, who you go with, what time you go with. There's a bunch of factors, but um,
exactly. Like I wouldn't,
yeah,
for example, start walking at night in the Cape Town city center, I would take an Uber or a Bolt. But then again,
Yes.
during the day, I would go to Bocap easily, and
Yes.
nothing would happen to me. It's
Yes.
fine. Uh,
Yes.
and yeah, just places, you know, just places where even the way you act, if you look lost, like you
Yeah.
absolutely don't belong there, obviously you're an easy target. And
Of the
again,
target.
because maybe the police and stuff aren't the greatest thing in Cape Town, people take advantage of that. So they'll just, okay, I'll just rob that white dude, take his phone, make some money, and boom. Also because
Yeah.
Cape Town is expensive and salaries are low, so I get it.
Hmm.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even more when there's a lot of opportunity in the country, so people want to go there, and then
Yeah.
like it becomes more expensive, and then the pay isn't that good for the low paying jobs, like putting gasoline on
Mhm.
cars and uh, working at the grocery store, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
if someone can rob a white guy that probably can buy a phone the next day and then make money for the month, you know, it doesn't surprise
Yeah.
me, of course. So
Yeah.
it's just how it is. But I'm very thankful you didn't get robbed or anything. Me, neither as well. But you know
Yeah.
what was funny when I moved to Thailand to Samui, my landlord was Cape Townian, and he told me that he had enough of Cape Town. He in the
Yeah.
year prior to him moving to Thailand, he was robbed twice, and
Wow.
he had just bought. I think the time difference wasn't that much, so he had just bought a new phone and get
Yeah.
his documents, whatever, and then he got again. So he was like,
Yeah.
"Fuck this! I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
move to another place, just sell all my shit." And then he moved to Thailand, where you
I,
can, yeah, where you can leave your scooter, motorcycle keys, go to sleep,
yes.
and they're there the next day.
The next day. My wife
Yeah,
and I we went to Bali and we had that experience. Us coming from Africa, we were like, we need to, put the
Yeah.
scooter inside the Airbnb so that it's still there.
yeah, yeah.
The locals were like,
The
leave it,
same
put the
feeling right here,
helmet,
man. The same
yeah,
feeling right here.
put the keys in your helmet, and then you just leave it there so you don't lose your keys. That was
Yeah.
insane.
Yo,
Um,
do you know, I would lock my helmet on my motorcycle in Thailand, and people
yeah,
would look at me crazy. I would have like my bike lock, and I would lock like the helmet to my bike so people couldn't take my helmet unless they cut the lock. And I
yes,
was the only one that probably did it. But because I
yeah,
lived in South America, in South Africa, I just don't trust
Yeah.
anyone, anybody. And
We're also in
the
Portugal, bro. It's a thing right there in Portugal for stealing bikes. I mean,
oh
like
yeah,
yeah,
it happens a lot in south of Portugal, right
mm.
there in Algarve. Like I know Brazilians that never got stolen right here in Rio, but
And
got
got
stolen
stolen in
right there.
Portugal because they got too comfortable in Portugal. That's
Yeah,
they
why
got
exactly.
they got too
they let
comfortable in Portugal. That's why I would lock my goddamn helmet
But
because
right
I
there,
I
yeah.
don't get comfortable.
but when I
I
got
don't.
But
right
I
there, I had the same feeling as Heron and his wife right there in Bali. Like when I got to,
yes,
I was like super protective, like, no, come on, my stuff, let's bring it up in the street, or let's lock down my passport because people can steal me. But then when I started
yeah,
living right there, and Portuguese was like, come on, bro, chill. Like here is very cool.
yeah,
Like
You
just
walk out,
yeah.
you're home with your laptop in hand, like making a call.
Yes. I have a story. So we were burgled. Our house was burgled when I think, in grade 12 or end of high school. But it was the most polite robbery I've ever had. And I think we've got very polite thieves here in Namibia. So they didn't break a door. I think they either picked the lock or they had a key made or stolen or something, but they gained entrance without breaking a window, They consider it. And then I was obviously asleep. And I remember waking up that morning and the TV was blasting. So I found the remote, I put the TV off. Um, and as I turned, I caught the last of the guy just, sneaking out the back. So
sure.
they were like, and this was
Still
probably like,
doing it. Fuck.
yeah, they were still busy. And at first I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but I thought it's nothing because you're groggy and you're just
Sure,
waking
sure,
up.
sure.
Um, and then obviously the first thing you do is you look for your phone. And I had gone out the previous night. So I was like, oh my goodness, where's my phone? And my friend was sleeping over and I woke him up and I'm like, can you call my phone? And he's like, he can't find his phone. And then it slowly started,
Uh,
pieces coming out like, oh my goodness. And I looked for my backpack. And in my backpack was obviously school books, but also my laptop and my wallet and basically, everything of value there. And my backpack is gone. So then it dawned on me, okay, we've been burgled. So I go out the back door, which is where I saw the person go. And I open the door, and right there in front of the door, in a neat pile, are my school books,
Ah, come on.
my
Putting it
wallet
back.
with obviously the money taken out of it. They even had the decency to leave my SIM card. So they opened the phone, they took the
I'm
SIM card.
going. I'm
Leopard
going. I'm not
syndrome.
even listening to this anymore. What?
Oh
Yeah, so
boy.
I
Oh
I always joke
my
that it's like
God.
10 out of 10, I would be robbed again. Great service,
And
you
where was
know.
it? There in Namibia?
It was in Walfish Bay, yeah, in Namibia, yes.
Right.
Wow.
Oh, come on.
Taking
Yeah.
off the SIM
And
card.
like it's two young boys asleep. I can imagine the horror stories that can happen. I imagine it was multiple burglars. So the fact that we were unharmed, they didn't break anything, 10 out of 10 would be robbed again.
Wait, wait.
Great Yelp review.
And he
Oh my
preserves
God.
education, he left the books. So like, hey,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah,
study, so I'll leave the books. I don't need your books. I want you to study and keep studying. I know it
keeps
got
that.
valid to you,
I,
knowledge and kind of stuff.
I want you to
Robert.
remain with the same phone number.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
we can get your
Uh,
number back. I don't want it. Oh, come on.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Amazing,
That's
amazing.
amazing.
and
Man,
I think that
going back to actually the how I found you, and also maybe it shed a bit some light to Namibia, I would say, with Timo and his hitchhiking journey from
yeah,
Southampton to South Africa. When he passed Namibia, I was really, really excited because I knew about Namibia. I knew a
yeah,
couple things about Namibia. I actually had a friend from France that was living in Cape Town the same time as I was, and he traveled to Namibia while we were living there. And like with his posts and everything, I was like, "Wow, Namibia is very unique," and I didn't know about this. And then when Timo started making his videos across
yeah,
Namibia, he really showed a lot and stuff that I didn't know about Namibia because
yeah,
a lot of people also know Namibia to be very, again, deserted and desert. And then he
yes,
showed a lot of, floral like landscapes and really cool
yes,
stuff.
yeah.
So how was it to see him show this? And do you think he showed it well? What do you think?
I think so. So I sort of joined Timo. So do the viewers know who Timo is?
Most probably not. So yeah,
Okay, so
You're
he's
gonna
you can
definitely
do it.
share
You
in
can
the
do it.
description, like
uh,
what we are talking
wasn't
Yeah.
he,
about.
wasn't he's from the Netherlands, right?
Mm. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's from the Netherlands, and the partner he was traveling with, and they basically do travel by hitchhiking from Southampton to South Africa. So he posted all on Instagram. So I only joined him when he was I think somewhere in Ghana. And then they were moving down, and I was getting more excited the closer it came to Namibia. And what was funny, again, going back to Namibian hospitality, the closer he came to Namibia, the more people were like, Timo, come stay by us. We will host you.
Cool.
I think he got so many invitations. And his whole time in Namibia, I noticed he was with one family or one or two families, and they took them to see the
Everything. Yeah.
so I think he did a very good job with seeing like the top five things to see. And I also noticed he stayed in Namibia uh quite long compared to some of the other countries. So
Mm.
he wasn't just passing through, but he really came to sightsee. And I think that's what Namibia has, especially in the Southern African um sphere of tourism. There is diversity. Um, and it's super cheap here compared to, you know, European. If you're coming with your US dollars or your euros, you can really see the entire Namibia on pocket change essentially. So yeah, no, I think he did a really good job. And it was so cool. So I live in Swakop. So when he came through Swakopmund, it was great to see what he did and where he went. And yeah, I think he did it really well.
Oh, that's really cool. I have such a very coincidental story with Timo because I actually started watching him when he was in still in the UK, and when
Yeah.
I was backpacking Southeast Asia, and this was in Korong in Cambodia, an island. I met this couple at a hostel. It was so funny. We were only five, so it was me, that couple, and two more people. We were at this fireplace roasting marshmallows. I don't know why I remember this, but and then I think I just took my phone and then I opened Instagram, and one of the first videos was from Timo. And then this couple was like, "Oh, are you also following his journey?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I've been following his journey since the UK." And they're like, "Oh, do you know we actually lived with Timo together in Australia while we were working on a farm?" And I was like,
Wow.
"What?" And
In Cambodia.
and they then showed me pictures. And well, when they were living in Australia for the visa status, you work a lot in agriculture. So they, along with Timo, were working together on the same farm for like
Oh,
months.
Wow.
And it's so just random on this small island in Cambodia. Just
Yes.
yeah, I was able
It's
to find this couple that were living together with this guy I was following on Instagram. It was quite funny.
quite a small world, eh?
Yeah, it is. It is. So that was cool, man. And just talking about like the things to see in Namibia, I also think Namibia to be underrated. It has really unique wildlife. I know there's
Yeah.
like these white elephants. They're not white, but they look white because of the dust. And
Yeah.
it's like the country with the most roaming cheetahs as well. And there's
Yep.
just this very unique wildlife that people don't even know about because, of course, when they think of safaris and savannas, they think of either South Africa, Kenya, or Tanzania.
Yeah.
But then Namibia has all of these very accessible, and then
Yes.
yeah,
and also
very
unique
few people know
species
about
right
it.
there, bro. Like you have some animals that there is not in other countries, other African countries. So it's very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Namibian wildlife is, I think, one of the big selling points in terms of tourism. It is heavily protected. If I'm not mistaken, I think Namibia is one of the countries with the highest percentage of its national land as protected parks. We have an insane amount of protected parks. And I know with our bird species, I have a friend that's big into bird watching or a birder. And he says he's very fortunate to be a bird watcher in Namibia because there's a whole bunch of species that just exist here. And then with the wildlife, there's big pushes in conservation. So for example, my wife and I, we stayed in Oshikati for 6 months. We did an internship there, and it's in the very far north of Namibia. And
Mm.
in the northern Namibia, we have a salt pan. It's called Etosha Salt Pan, but it's like a natural park where you see like a whole bunch of wildlife. So obviously the big five are there, a
Mm.
bunch of cheetahs as well. And interestingly enough, farmers hate cheetahs. And the reason
Yeah.
the reason is unlike other big cats like lions or leopards, a cheetah will keep killing if given the opportunity. So if you
Like a
put a cheetah,
cat. Yeah, like
yeah,
cats. Oh wow.
if you put a cheetah in an enclosure with 200 sheep, those 200 sheep will be dead that day versus a leopard that'll kill and then eat and then go off, for a lion who will sort of do the same thing. So there is this fight between the local farmers and the Namibian government, in that you can imagine if you're a farmer and there's roaming cheetahs that decimate your livestock, you're gonna go and want to hunt them, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the Namibian government doesn't want this. Um, but what was cool is there was a lodge that I stayed at. I can't mention the name. But what they did is they adopted cheetahs. Now, it's not strictly legal, but it was their workaround. Instead of killing them because these cheetahs were eating their livestock,
Mm-hmm.
um, they put them in, I think, something like 60 square kilometers. So it's quite wide open. And they would feed these animals and they help them breed, but it was
Yeah.
their way of managing it. And I think it's a clever workaround, instead of
It
killing the beautiful animal.
Exactly. And I was even gonna add it works because cheetahs are actually easier to domesticate because they're very friendly to humans in
Yes.
comparison to the other ones like tigers and lions and all of those. It's funny because in South Africa there's this sanctuary where they also have two pet cheetahs and you can go there and pet them and they're like
Yeah.
just they're like cats but big. They're cats but big. It's so
Just
funny.
big.
Yeah, and they purr as well. They
They
purr
do.
like cats. So
Yes,
it's
they do.
exciting. Yeah, it's really cool. So I'll feel really bad about killing a cheetah, but at the same time, I'm so happy what that sanctuary does. Instead of
Hmm.
killing them, maybe sterilizing them if possible, so like the
Yeah.
population doesn't overgrow. I think it was Botswana that had a problem with elephants. Maybe they still have because they just keep coming and coming and coming, and they're like,
Yes.
you can't kill them, but at the same time, they just keep coming and coming and coming. So you need a way to control them. I think that's also part
Yeah.
of conservation. How do you control a species by not killing them?
Did you
So
hear what Botswana then said to Germany?
they were
Um,
gonna send elephants to Germany.
yeah,
Like what?
the
Like a
this,
threat.
this,
Never heard about it.
yeah, they so what happened is Botswana, they got so good at elephant conservation
Right.
that the numbers exploded, right? And now elephants, you can imagine they eat a lot. So again, the local farmers were complaining that herds of elephants would come in and eat, and then the farmers would push back and shoot the elephants, but it's illegal because there's like hefty fines and even jail time on poaching. So then what the Botswana government instituted is to do legal big game hunts. So guys, wealthy people from Europe pay like a hefty sum. They fly over, they get to hunt an elephant or two, and then that way the population is kept under control, and then also the government benefits, obviously, because that money gets put into the country. So that was their solution, and then they got some pushback from the German chancellor or the German government saying, "No, you can't. This isn't right." And then the Botswana president said, "I'll send you guys 60 elephants. They're in the streets of Berlin." And then let's see how you,
Control
conserve.
them. I'm just imagining like 60 elephants in the streets of Berlin.
Yes.
Just like appearing out
But
of nowhere, like on an airplane, getting dropped
yes,
down. Oh my god.
but
Amazing.
Um, that was really cool. But yeah, there's also this thing. I think these also made, at least on social media, made Namibia a bit more known, and I also didn't knew about it before then, which is the dunes that meet the ocean, and I think it's like one of a kind. I don't think there's that many places, or even anywhere else, where the desert would meets with the ocean, and it creates this really cool landscape. Did
uh-huh.
you yeah w- did did you go there, or when was the last time that you went there to that like little street
A
thingy?
little. I live here, so my commute between Swakopmund and Walfish Bay takes me on a highway, and then on
Mm-hmm.
my right is the ocean, and on my left is the dune. So I drive
Wow.
that route every single day. Um, it is quite breathtaking. It isn't the only place in the world that has the dunes. I think somewhere in France they've got a small patch of dunes that meets the ocean, and then
Oh, close to La Rochelle. I think so. Yes, yes. Do you
yeah,
know why I know that? Because I surfed there. I surfed
very
on those
good.
dunes. Yeah, but the yes, they are dunes, but they're not like desert dunes, like
Yes, yeah. So that's the
Saudi
difference.
Arabia desert, like the Namibian ones look. But that is true, actually. Yes, and it's really cool, and
Namibia,
they're quite high as well.
yes, Namibia has some of the highest dunes in the world. Here in Walfish Bay, there's Dune 7, which is the highest dune in Namibia. And then
Mm.
there's Big Daddy, which is a famous one. Very, very apt name. And that's in Sossusvlei and also one of the higher dunes, yeah.
Yeah, more towards the north, right? More towards the north.
Sossusvlei is more south
Ah, okay, okay, okay,
from,
okay, okay. Yeah, okay. So going to the ghost town as well.
yes,
Okay,
going
okay, okay,
down to
okay.
the coast town.
Yeah.
So you would go down the coast and you'd get Sossusvlei. And then if you go a bit further, you get Ludritz and Kolmanskop.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
that's where the ghost town is. Did you know that what's that series Fallout 4? The
Mm,
series? Yeah, it was filmed. Some of the sequences were filmed in that ghost town.
no shot there. I mean,
Yeah,
I get it. I think it's the same with Chile. I think it's Atacama. I don't remember the
yeah,
film, but they also shot some scenes that were supposed to feel like Mars in Atacama
yeah,
in that desert because like the rock formations feel completely like Mars. It's
yeah,
incredible, and as well to have that sense of ghost town and desert like still within Fallout. That place actually fits like perfectly. So that's
yeah.
really cool. Man, again, so much diversity in this country. I really want to know now about your life as a dentist in Namibia. How is that?
Bro,
Because,
yeah, introduce yourself. Like we've been talking a lot, and then and then Harry didn't introduce
now your
himself. What
profession.
did he do?
Yeah,
What he
all
was
right.
studying right there in Cape Town? How did you met your girl? Also, right there, like
Oh,
just
so
open
nice.
the book of your life, bro.
I don't think I'm important at all, but if you guys want to hear, I can tell you. So I was born in Windhoek, which is a capital here in Namibia. And then I grew up in Walfish Bay, which is on the coast, and I finished my schooling there. And then, yeah, after school, I knew I wanted to be a dentist. We don't have, or at the time, we didn't have a dental school in Namibia. We just had a fledgling medical university. We also only have one university in Namibia, and for
Only
the entire
one
Namibia,
in
it's
Winvec.
called in Windhoek, yes.
You
But
got
Ah,
they do.
only one university right there, bro.
Yes.
that's
We have
crazy.
we have a bunch of what are they called?
There's
Private,
probably
Tech.
private ones, right?
private. So you got only one public.
And one
No, no, we
and
only
like a
have
couple
one
private.
university. No, we have one university, and then we have a few technicons
All
that'll
right,
Ah,
teach you
okay.
like
totally
It's yeah,
different.
yeah. It's like electrician,
correct
plumbing, that kind of
Sure,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Got it.
stuff. Then the main university is called UNAM, University of Namibia, and they do have campuses all over the country, but it's one university. So they
Ah, okay,
didn't
okay,
How
okay.
huge
Got it.
is it?
say
Probably huge, the university there.
No,
it.
because they
Quite,
have campuses around the
All
country as
right.
well. So imagine if like
No, I got it,
Walt,
I got it, I got it. So you got
yeah,
like
some
Portugal, you
countries
got
have that.
Faro and Gambelas, like so you have like lots
Yes, yes,
of the same university.
exactly, exactly. Imagine if Walt was more around the Algarve,
Sure,
which
sure,
should
sure.
happen actually. So imagine if it was
mm,
like Portimão, Tavira, then
Sure,
you
I
have
got
all
it.
those campuses
Got
all
it, got
around
it.
the Algarve, which is actually surprising that it still doesn't happen. But oh well. Going back to you, sorry, that thought just came to me.
so so yeah,
Yeah.
quite a nice university. And they, at the time when I was graduating, they had a very new medical program. And I
Mhm.
was actually on my way to that because I had applied for dentistry, but I didn't hear back from the university. And they get about 600 applicants per year from Namibia alone, and they only take two. So when I
Wow. Wait,
didn't,
only two people?
only two people
Wow.
out of the 600. So it's by God's grace alone that I was accepted, but we didn't hear anything from them. So I assumed that I wasn't accepted, and we were actually on our way to, when my father asked me, just, give them a call. We didn't hear from them. Let's see. And Miss Benjamin, I remember her name. Uh, to this day, she answered and she's like, yes, he's accepted. We 2 weeks into the program. Where is he?
Bro, congrats, man. Congrats, man.
And
What?
it turns out
Congratulations.
I had the wrong email address. So they've been
Oh.
emailing me. And I'm not even lying, within the space of, I think, 4 days, it was on a bus, get packed, get your visa, and go. And I have an uncle that lived there at the time, so he was able to receive me and then put me in the residence. Um, and yeah, it was quite an experience. I had been to Cape Town before, so it wasn't completely new.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few things that were different. Um, and then I met my wife there. We were studying together in our first year, and we started dating in our second year. And yeah, we finished our university degree. And then from there in South Africa, we have a year of community service that you have to do. Uh,
Okay.
so they do pay you, which is nice,
Mm.
but most of the time the postings are, in rural areas. Um, oh, before that, in our fourth year, something cool about South Africa specifically, there's something called the Pillow Pepper train, which I think
O-
is the coolest thing in the world. It's
Okay.
a train, I think it's about 20 cars long, and it houses medical specialties. So you get dentistry, you get ophthalmology, you get gynecology, you get basically a whole bunch of graduates that travel on this train, and it runs in a loop all over South Africa. And it spends few days up to 2 weeks, depending on where it stops. But it will spend it in settlements and towns in and around South Africa. And when the train arrives, it's free medical care. So the cool thing is, as undergraduates, you get the experience of
Mhm.
work, and then also the people who are there obviously get access to very good medical care.
You get to
And then the
help
nice,
them.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then the nice thing is, on the train, you get hospitality students. So guys who are studying hospitality. So they cooking for you, and it's like 3-course meals a day. So it's quite nice.
Wow. And it's like a party bus, I imagine. Like a party train, I mean.
It's a party train. And the nice thing is, you meet so many different South Africans from so many different universities, and they plan it in that way so that not every university in South Africa's graduates are on the train at the same time. So it was such an experience. Like, I would do that today.
Very nice. And
But yeah,
how do you call this program?
it's the Pillow Pepper train.
Pepper
Little
train.
Pepper train.
So
I
nice.
I didn't even know South Africa had a train line. That's I'm
Sure,
still.
man. That
I mean,
that actually
I
was
know the
super
train.
impacting during this.
Yeah, it's funny. I know the train in Cape Town, but then again, you never take that train.
You,
Probably you never take that train.
you don't take the metro in Cape Town now. There
My
is
God.
it's called the Gau train. So South Africa, back back in the day, it had a booming, I think at its peak, it was the second largest gold producer in the world. So there was like a lot of wealth in South Africa as a country, and then they built the Gau train, and it was this luxury train liner. I think it still runs today, but I think that the Pelo Piper train is sort of born from um, that initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very cool, man.
so
I
that was
Googled it and it looks amazing. I mean, how it's distributed. It's very cool.
it's very cool, and obviously it's always good to be able to help people. And then yeah, after our studies, we have to do a community service here. So that's where they post you, usually in a rural place. My wife was posted in a town called Kimberley. They have the largest diamond in the world was discovered in Kimberley. It was a diamond mine, and there's an open mine that's sort of like a tourist attraction. It's called the Big Hole. Very creative name.
Mm.
Um, but it's one of the deepest mines ever dug in the world in Kimberley. And then I was posted way out on the east side of South Africa in a city called Durban. Um,
Durban.
Durban, yes.
The bunny chow
Honey,
place.
yeah, a very big Indian culture.
Mm-hmm.
There's a comedian, um, Trevor Noah.
Mm.
He's from South Africa. So one of his jokes is that no, it's not a joke, it's a fact that the largest Indian population outside of India is in Durban. So it has quite a big Indian culture. And so I was posted there for a year. And then when we finished that up, we went back to Cape Town, where we worked for a little bit, and then we decided to relocate to Namibia. But when we wanted to come back to Namibia, they also required sort of an internship year, even though we were qualified and working and all of that. And that sent us far north to Oshikati, where we lived and worked for 6 months and then eventually came back here. But
Oh,
I don't regret any of it because we've literally seen the east coast of South Africa, west coast of South Africa, very
exactly.
far north of
And
Namibia.
you were
So
together as well.
we were
So
together, yeah.
so that's
A
really,
lot
really
of
cool.
teamwork required, and I think
Yeah.
it really strengthened
Especially in the beginning
strength.
because that was like early in the relationship, I imagine. So it's still,
Yep.
being young and traveling is doing the
Yes.
same job, especially, which is funny because,
Yes.
like, would I imagine myself, let's say I become a director, right? Having a director girlfriend, woo, that would be, oh my God, I don't know. Maybe an actress, but another director. Whew.
It's going to be
A
too
lot of
sad for you. You don't have any, voice during like recording the movie, bro. It's like, no, I want to
Yeah,
record that way. She
that
said,
would be
no,
discussion ever
the way I
after
want is
discussion. That
there,
would be
bro. And then you have to agree.
so. I want
uh,
to know how it is being like both dentists. How like is that relationship?
but personally, I enjoy it. I don't
Mhm.
think I can't imagine it another way.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's such a blessing to be able to have a wife or a partner who does the same profession as you because, like, Joao, you will experience this pretty soon, but marriage can be hard sometimes.
I know.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I think it helps, especially with communication, where I can tell her, like, for example, today I came home late and all I have to say is I had a root canal and there was four roots that I needed to do. And she fully understands what that means emotionally, mentally. And I think it makes things a whole lot easier. And then also what was nice is throughout our studies, because we started dating so early on, the word sort of spread really quickly amongst the dental faculty. So it was sort of a running joke that wherever possible, we will put in the same group or we will put in the same clinic at the same time. And then it was no, because it's Zoe and Aaron, they must go and do clinics together. They married. Hulle is getroud, is what they would say, even though we were
Wow.
dating. So we got a lot of experience there. And I think it's amazing we actually work at the same practice. Um, I can take a photo of somebody's X-ray and then I quickly send it to her and I say, okay, what would you do here? And then we can have a quick discussion as colleagues.
That's
And
pretty.
then she can, as my wife, then say, but baby, you know,
Maybe you should.
don't do this or whatever, you know.
That's really cool
Um,
actually. That is
yeah.
that is really really dope. Having like being able to have like those work discussions that can be easily understandable between both.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
also
But
being
what
your
is,
best friend, man. Like she's your wife, but by the same time, your best friend,
yeah,
having the
Mhm.
first opinion and the second opinion about any treatment and kind of stuff. So this kind of, friendship, like you're in a relationship, but having a friendship with your wife, it's very important.
it's the
Mhm.
most important thing. She is my best friend. And the nice thing is, you know that the advice that's given, there's no ulterior motives. This advice is what's best for you. So, you know, other colleagues would maybe say, no, do this treatment so that they don't have to do it or whatever, you
Mm,
know? Whereas the advice you get from your wife, that's also your colleague, is I think is probably the most purest form of that
yeah.
advice. But what is funny is just like every couple, there are some mornings where we have like a bit of an argument and we would be driving in silence. And then when we get to work, it's like we have to park there, because now we are colleagues. So
Yeah.
it's like, we haven't been maybe speaking for the morning, but at work, it's like, hi, Dr. Zoe, can I speak to you for a second? Yeah, that conversation. And then it's like you guys are like fine at work, and then the minute you get back in the car, it's like, okay, now we're angry
Pros
again.
and cons.
But
Yeah.
I think that also forces you to recognize where you must put your energies. There are some arguments that need to happen so that you guys can grow together.
Mhm.
But I think we also at a stage where we realize there's some arguments where
It's
you know
pointless.
this
Yeah.
this is not an issue, so we
Really.
can exchange some words and then say, no, you didn't put the milk out and you didn't pack my lunch or whatever. And then a few years ago that would be the argument for the next 3 days or whatever, whereas now, because of this fact that we are colleagues,
Yeah.
it's trained us to identify what are issues and what are non-issues. What is something that we know, okay, I didn't have my coffee and I was just a bit grumpy, or I didn't sleep so well last night, versus actual things that need discussion. So
That's
I
awesome,
it's
man.
I don't think I would have it any other way.
Amazing, man. And how long you guys are married so far right now?
We actually celebrated our 4-year anniversary
Here.
last week.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Congratulations, man.
thanks. But
Congratulations.
we've been together for 10 years. That sounds better. Yeah.
Which is interesting because I feel like South Africans they marry like really really soon. Like as soon as they get into a relationship, they straight on get married. And so yeah, so it's interesting that you guys took a little bit of time. But maybe that's also I would say that's a bit better, especially because you guys traveled as well together. So it's good to like see, first how it is, get a sense of
Yeah.
things, and then
Yeah.
close down. Let's say that.
Correct. Correct. And you see how the other responds in different situations. I think that's important. Personally, I would advise really getting to know the person you're getting married to. But also, I've seen loving, lasting marriages where they met today and then tomorrow they went to court and then the day afterwards
Hmm.
they were married and it works. So I
Yeah,
think, to each his own.
can happen both ways. Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is it. Uh,
Yeah.
it's been awesome. It's been
Been
really, really
awesome,
cool,
man.
and yeah, and very, very different as well. But then again, for such an underrated country and like unknown country, it was a really good talk to show
Thanks.
more of
For
what
sure.
Namibia has and can offer, and hopefully even more into the future, more, which is always my goal to these countries, have more of a backpacking
Mm.
accessibility to people
Yeah.
that just want to go there and take away all that white tourism that a lot of African countries have, and more
Yes.
accessible to backpackers and to people that don't have as much money, South Europeans, for example, that just want to go
Mm.
there and see it and experience it. So,
And
so
trying
yeah,
to
for
open
sure.
the minds for other destinations too in Africa. So that's why
Mm.
we try to pass this idea right here at the podcast too. But before finishing up our podcast, Guilherme wants to do the question he does every single episode in the final of the episodes. So feel free, buddy. Feel
For
free.
sure. Heron, Ray, what would you
Yes.
say?
Ferris. You know Ferris
What would
Day
you
Off.
say?
I love this. Man. Ferris Day Off. That's a pretty cool movie.
Uh,
You guys know? Oh, amazing.
Ferris Bueller Day Off. Oh my god.
It's Bueller Day Off.
The last film I saw on a drive-in theater. I don't know why I remember it, but classic.
yeah.
What is the thing, Aaron, that makes you the most proud about being from Namibia? What would you say?
Like when you're abroad there in Cape Town, people first ask you, "Oh, you're from Namibia.
Yeah.
What do you like from your country?" What came up with your mind, like straight up?
Um, I like the vastness of the country. Like you said, there's not a lot of people. Um, but for me, that's what's endearing about it. It's you can drive 30 minutes and then there's vast open spaces, beautiful landscapes, sometimes harsh landscapes, deserts and that. But yeah, that's I always end up missing those open spaces, especially when we travel to, crowded countries. It's
Hmm.
really nice and I really enjoy it. But then after like 2 or 3 weeks, I start missing the the openness of Namibia. And then also the people. I think we've got really special people. For anybody that's ever come to Namibia, I think that is one takeaway that a lot of people have, which is just genuine, real, very family centered, authentic people.
For sure. Amazing.
And I could
And
feel during the podcast that you pretty much like this band.
Sorry?
And I could feel during the podcast that you're pretty much like this, a person like this, very genuine and like open.
Very,
And you have like, I could see the vibration of the good feelings that you're saying, like while you're talking. And
yeah.
it definitely represents your people.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited about Namibia. We are in a transition phase. So they discovered oil this year, like
Okay.
a lot of oil off
It's
the
really
south
cool
coast. Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. So obviously America is quite interested,
Yeah, but now
which is a
you
little.
guys
like,
are not colonized, so yeah, it's pretty good
So
timing. I
I'm
would say
hope.
pretty good
Yeah.
timing for finding
Yeah.
oil.
So I'm hoping that it does boost our economy because one of the things I think Namibia is first in the world for disparity between the classes. So something like 90% of Namibians live with less than $1 a day. So very, very poor. And then a very small fraction of the rest of the population own most of the other wealth. So there is a disparity issue that I hope in the next, 5, 10, 15 years that this oil can sort of help and boost the economy. And then also we actually had our elections um, on Wednesday. It was a public holiday
All
on
right.
oh,
Wednesday. So we went to vote, and then you get this little
oh,
stamp
really?
All
that
right.
you voted. Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, hopefully we've had one political party the entirety of Namibia's existence, which isn't long. It's 1990 we got our independence. So yeah, I'm hoping that, new party, new change. But yeah, exciting times, scary times, but we pray and we hope that this is all good for Namibia.
For sure. Amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Man, Aaron, thank you so much for joining. And to
Yeah.
our guests, thank you so much for reaching the end. And again, guys, be sure to follow us on our socials, Facebook and Instagram at Podcast WWP. Leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Give us your thoughts about this episode, about any episode, and leave that review. And so we can boost our own platform a little bit more.
Sure, man.
And
Don't forget the 5 stars on Spotify. It's pretty important for us, like for the algorithm, for recommending us. So please.
for sure. And once again, Aaron, thank you so much. And see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye bye.